Welcome back, Frigid Knight here as always. Got plenty more work to do in Palworld. Not the least of which is raising up a force that could take on the likes of Xenolord and Blazebent Ryu. Oh yeah, now I remember what I had that being made for. What was that? Oh. Only done because of bad working conditions. That ain't good. Huh. Well, it's not like I really need that anymore. There's one. I'm not sure if I'd really call it a guide, honestly. It seemed to be mostly tips that it recommended using Orzerk, and I honestly don't know why. Oh, that recommended using Orzerk for taking down Xenolord. Eh. Let's see. I have an idea. One that will probably help with uh, there it is. Legend, Burly Body, and Ice Emperor. Yeah. Can't exactly ask for a whole lot more. I mean, I suppose I could ask for a higher. For, what the heck was the. I'm gonna end up seeing. I'm gonna end up finding when I take him over to the PAL surgery table. The guy that I consulted, it did indirectly. Let's see, which one was it? Musclehead. That was it. Could maybe ask for that one, but that might be a bit much. Plus, honestly, I'd rather have Musclehead than. Let's see. Yeah, in the case of these, Musclehead's probably going to be better. that's better, so... Jetragon really isn't that good for work at the base anyway. Okay, so did recommend having Jetragon that no meteor rain. And, well, the guide in question neglects to leave out the fact that while, yes, you can breed Jetragon with that, knowing that skill initially, they learn it at level 60. So, yeah, that's kind of required. Those the Jetragon that you're going to be using being level 60 is more or less required. Also, I'm not sure if there's some way of making it so that these can revive pals faster. Because it looks like it takes 10 minutes by default. You'd be better off just swapping pals in and out from the pal box. Especially if you're trying to take down Blazemut Ryu. Man. Fingers crossed with those two. Actually, I might be able to make good use of that. So both of those are male. See, the fewer overall traits that the two parents have, the better your chance of getting a child that's going to have the two traits that you want. In the case of Nocklum, honestly, I'm not really going to bother with trying to breed one that's got, trying to get some that have traits that are ideal for combat. Because, honestly, between its raw stats and the partner skill that it's got, that'll probably be sufficient, I wager. And also, it just so happens that they can be pretty good at the base. Let's see. Yeah, if I had known how good it actually was, like boosting attack by 25%, I wouldn't have been using them like I had been. Just 47, huh? It's the eggs that are the limiting factor. already got a Chickapee in there. Level 2. Huh? If my PAL box seems really unorganized, that's because it mostly is. Mostly. Okay. Well, I know we can find plenty of Chickapees, so... Also, a few other things that I need to get, most for the sake of getting some gear upgrades. I think that that Gigasphere will be good enough. If you're trying to raise a condense a pallet to level 2 or 3, just going around catching them is going to be good enough. Any higher than that, and you're probably going to be better off breeding them to get those numbers. Kind of forgot there's a bunch of Mammorests around here. Not just the Alpha. You know what, come to think of it, Seriously? But I need, like, those, Gummoss stem thingies. I need some of them for research. No, really. What do we have here? Draconic Breath, Stone Blast, Grass Tornado. Pretty sure I've got those. In fact, I'd be surprised if there's any skill fruits that I don't have yet. Workaholic. That'll come in handy. I figured I got some eggs. Seriously? I know the merchant here might sell those. No, he does not. I probably should have seen that coming. I don't remember my character's hunger meter depleting that quickly. Derp. The thing that's going to be the biggest grind with taking on the biggest grind for preparing for taking on Xenolord is going to be just grinding the XP. I'm going to need 6 Jet Dragon that are at least level 60. That! Finally, I got one. Yeah, sure, I could get that homing module, but my aim's good enough that I don't need it. Man, the alpha's over this way-ish. Right over there. Huh, that doesn't work. Color me shocked. Probably should have been surprised that I didn't get a Gummoss leaf from that. But they've used the same kind of trick for taking down Meemog. As it turns out, if you actually just charge right into them, at least while on Jet Dragon, you'll damage them and they won't take off running. I should demonstrate if I come across a Meemog during this stream. Nope. That's a lift monk. Don't need one. Kind of annoying that some of the research is locked behind Gummoss leaves. Or Gummoss leaves. Bleh. English. when they drop so rarely from Gummoss. Yeah, getting somewhere. Oh, come on. There. Yeah. Just halfway there, and that's only for one of the things I need to research. Oh. Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna have to grind a lot of pal souls too. Probably won't be too bad. In part because if I really have to, I can just, break down the, use like the, what was it, refrigerated grinder or whatever it's called to break down a bunch of the giant and large pal souls. What's the giant ones? Because I don't use those too often, so they tend to just accumulate. Oh dear, that chickpea needs rescuing. Where the heck is... There it is. Oh, that's why I haven't seen one in a while. It should be enough for a few cakes. Just a few, though. Swift deity? There's only one deity. I'm pretty sure he doesn't look like that. Come on, there we go. I think I had 170 some odd gigaspheres when I started. Now I'm down to less than 140. It's giving me only one thing. I don't have enough gigaspheres. At least I could just find them lying around. There you go. Just kind of remembered, I still haven't taken down the oil rig way over here. I should probably do that while I'm waiting for results from some of the from that. Well, waiting for results with some of those eggs being laid. I really need to make a point of taking along some, cooked food or whatever when I'm doing stuff where I'm going around riding my Dragon a lot. Because he gets hungry. Yeah. Just need one more. Well, at least for one of the lines of research. Hey, there we go. Alright, where's the closest waypoint? Over there. Alright. Hmm. Guess it didn't really matter if I did that. How many? Just 5. Yeah, thought I picked up more than that for some reason. Oh, it probably affects the skill fruit orchards. Probably. Okay. How'd I miss that one? Yeah, pretty sure that's not 32. Yeah, let's find out. Okay, I was wrong. Oh, 15%, okay. Because I'm pretty sure be able to give it a... Let's see, what was it? I think it's a work slave? Oh, shoot, that's right. Infrastructure. Might need another. Maybe 2 more. Stick with that for now. I probably won't need much in the way of, well, having Mozzarinas produce milk for now. As for why, well, it's really simple. He's weighing me down so much. A bit of everything. The main reason is because I have a massive amount over at this base. Figure I might as well shuttle run a bunch over there. Alright. Now, how many do... Wait, I didn't need to come all the way up here. Still need more eggs. Boom.
What?
Check to see how things are going over. Well, actually, with how many I can have cooked up right now, I might as well do that for that. There's other two jet dragon that I set up over there. That I set up in that second breeding pen. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to... Wait, Serenity. And these two have really been busy. Okay, looks a bit promising. Legend Serenity Dragon Killer. There we go. Especially considering the fact that, let's see. Yeah, Legend, Serenity, Diamond Body, Dragon Killer. Yeah, it decreases incoming dragon damage. That's really gonna be good. Oh, shoot. I keep forgetting. When you set something up to be cooked, it takes the berries out of your inventory first. Alright. Those two are definitely keepers. 6, 9. Alright. That could be useful for breeding. I mean, like I said, the fewer overall traits that they have, the more likely it is that you're going to end up getting all of the traits that you want. There it is. There we go. Should be some cake ready over at the base by now. Although I think there might still be... Oh, nope. Thought there's still some in there. I was wrong. But that's done. Have fun, you two. Holy crap, that's fast! Probably thanks to that Braloha over there. Well, that and one of them having the philanthropist trait. Dang, these two are frisky. good chance with those two. Keep it. Alright. Now for some of the other stuff that I need, that I'm looking to do, I need some quartz. Because I need to make some circuit boards. Or electronics, whatever. I know a few good spots for that. Oh, this way. Might as well try catching that. Actually, no. Because trying implies a possibility of failure. If you're going to be going anywhere with a fishing rod, make sure to take a gloopy with you. Yeah, those aren't very good traits. Alright. There aren't a whole lot of good places for collecting pure quartz. Not that it really matters, because you don't really need good places for it. Oh, really? You're probably gonna need, and you're probably gonna. You're not gonna be farming pure quartz all that much, and you might be doing that when you gotta craft like if you got like a really good recipe for a late game weapon, but that's about it. All right. Yeah. Straight that way, roughly. Oh, whoops. Circuit boards, that was it. You gotta be kidding me. I could have sworn that... could have sworn you'd be able to get multiple portions of pure quartz from just one pump of a shotgun. Is that really necessary? Huh. So it's between 3 and 4 portions per arrow. At least that's what the average is. Oh, shoot. I got carried away. When did I get that? That, too. Other box. Or not. Huh? Probably get that done in no time, I wager. Well, as soon as the sun's up. Oh, wait, it is up. I thought this was a sunset instead of a sunrise. Ah, man. Huh? Hey, you gotta be kidding me. Guess that has to be crafted over here. Yeah, it does. Okay. Okay, 2 to 4 circuit boards. Might as well make about as many circuit boards as I can. I'm gonna need more than that. Still gonna need more pure quartz than that. Well, that'll do for now for just making the energy shotgun. In case of the charge rifle, yes, I can craft it, but... Yes, I could craft it, sure, but it's really not going to do me a whole lot of good because I can't craft the ammo yet. Same with the overheat rifle. So close, though. Be right back. Okay. Well, now would certainly not be a bad time to start trying to power level some of these pals I've got. Starting with that. Oops. Excuse me? Oh. Yeah, with it being not just Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but also Father's Day, I figured I'd maybe share some of my own, well, I guess observations, thoughts, and, well, to be honest, experiences when it comes to men's mental health. Well, it's probably mental health in general. And, well, first off, kind of one thing to, kind of the first thing I'd like to say regarding it is mostly directed at the kind of people that sort of scoff at raising awareness for that issue. One big thing I've noticed overwhelmingly when it comes to any sort of, I guess you could say, societal issue, is that they don't happen in a vacuum. They tend to have, well, obviously they tend to be caused by something. They don't just happen, like they just spring out of the aether or some kind of thing. Obviously not. But the thing is, they also tend to kind of spill over and affect other things as well. Oh, Pals at base enhancement level 1 research has been completed. Good. And so, men's mental health, the matter of men's mental health, and I'd also say that there's, when it comes to the mental health crisis going on, that a lot of people, that I've seen a lot of people mention, I would say that there's a men's mental health crisis and a women's mental health crisis going on. There's a lot of interaction between the two crises, but I still consider them to be separate, in part because there tends to be different things at play when it comes to both. Basically, there's just way too many differences to consider them to all be the same issue. So, for example, come on. Okay. Just let the experience come pouring on in. Hold still. Darn it. Come on. There we go. Alright, that was the exit. So anyway, the one thing to note about men's mental health, imagine there's at least some applicability when it comes to women's mental health as well. Oh, dang. Uh, 7765. Okay, so it increases it by 100. So one thing that tends to contribute quite a bit to, men's mental health issues, depression in particular, is, well, feelings of kind of futility and stagnation. And, I suppose one reason as to why it is that that's probably more so the case when it comes to men's mental health than women's mental health is that as much as a lot of, well, to be honest, feminists would like to paint it as though women are nice. As much as they like to paint women as being horribly oppressed by the patriarchy, kind of a simple reality is that women are pretty used to being able to count on there being someone to come to their aid. Perhaps even rescue, one might say. That's not the case for men. Men can maybe rely on friends or family coming to their help when they ask. But someone actually coming to their rescue? No. Honestly, there's a few things I can think of that really haven't helped the kind of the sense of futility or stagnation that a lot of men feel like they're facing. And, there's one I can think of off the top of my head that, yeah, there's probably going to be people taking issue with this because, due to disagreements, particularly political ones, but to be blunt, I don't really care. If you end up saying that you find it offensive, well, that's probably because you dislike what I'm saying and what I have to say that strongly. Besides which, kind of the simple fact of taking offense is that it is a choice. After all, no matter how hurtful something is, a person could always choose to just let it go anyway. And to not hang on to it, not hold some kind of grudge, or, seek some kind of revenge. Where did that other dig toys go? Oh, there it is. Anyway, as I was saying, one thing that's certainly not helped at all is the kind of DEI policies that have been in place during the Biden administration. Because as much as some people might think that, it's just, I've actually heard some people talk about those policies as though, oh no, that's just saying, that's just if there's, a male and female candidate that are just as good as each other, the female candidate will get the position. No, that's not at all what it was. What it was, plain and simple, is that if you were a man, especially a white man, you were not even going to be considered. Your resume was just going to go straight into the trash. And to really understand the kind of impact that has on a person, try and imagine what it'd be like when, you keep being told, oh, just do the best, just work hard enough, be competent enough, and, you'll make it. Maybe being told that for, much of your formative years, you get to become an adult, and then a bunch of people, because they think that your group is overrepresented, end up saying, no, it doesn't matter how hard you try now, you're not even going to be considered. Not to mention, there's some other impacts that have. I can imagine there being some negative impacts on women's mental health, such as the implication that, such as the fact that that kind of implies, that kind of implies to women that would benefit from those kinds of policies. It kind of implies to them that, yeah, no matter how hard they work, they're still not going to be able to even match men. So there's that too. Of course, like I said, this is kind of an example of how things don't, how societal problems don't happen in a vacuum. It's not just that you have, well, you could have one major cause, but oftentimes, and I've noticed that oftentimes there'll be a lot of different factors, and sometimes there'll be a lot of rather small ones that have managed to just kind of snowball into a big problem. But what's more is that it's not just that. It's not just when it comes to the cause, but also the impact of a lot of those problems. A lot of time, I've noticed a lot of times that there'll be kind of a spillover issue in the case of both men's and women's mental health. Yeah, probably safe to say that this has resulted in there's been some spillover in the form of there being negative impacts. Both of those problems have had some spillover in the form of there being a negative impact on the other. Yeah, suffice to say, it's a big mess. It's really odd too because it at least seems as though there's a lot of feminist women that almost want things to get things to be really difficult for men, and to be honest, I find the fact that that's the case, I find to be really bizarre. Well, really bizarre and short-sighted because they nonetheless do. There's still a lot that they expect from men, regardless of how they view men or what they want from men, or however they treat men. But at the same time, they don't seem to be aware of the fact that the way that the kind of stuff that they try dumping on men does make it tougher for men to do what they expect of them. It's not to suggest that they should care only because of how it affects them, but well, a person who really only cares about how the issues that other people face affect a person who cares only about how issues others are facing impacting oneself, yeah, that's suffice to say, one Kralum ingot. Why the heck was there any being made? I don't remember setting that up. Huh, weird. Let's see. Yeah, I needed a lot of hexalite quartz. Because the amount I'm getting from that just isn't enough. Whoops. Well, I suppose kind of one thing to really put in perspective, kind of why it is that a person should actually care about that kind of thing, that I'm sure a lot of those feminists that I suppose could really put things in perspective for a lot of those feminists is that, well, so one thing that can be a rather big part of mental health issues for both men and women is insecurity, which, well, kind of my perspective as to what exactly insecurities are is, hang on, kind of my perspective as to what exactly insecurities are is that it's kind of a mix of how there's a number of how there's desires that people have, and fears that are kind of linked to that desire, to manner of speaking. Such as, for example, the desire to be loved and the fear that one might be unlovable, or the desire to be accepted and the fear of rejection. On a similar note, I'm personally of the opinion that confidence, the actual confidence, comes from, is rooted in, that itself is rooted in kind of facing and overcoming one's insecurities. Thus, by extension, they are by nature rooted in honesty and truth. So, yeah. When it comes to confidence, no, there's no fake it till you make it. Maybe I should have grabbed that Frost Stallion I've got. But that said, one particular insecurity, that one can see a lot of, especially when it comes to social issues, is the desire to be a good person and the fear that one might not be. Well, yeah, suffice to say, if you're the kind of person who really doesn't care about the problems that other people face except for how it's affecting you, yeah, that fear is very well founded. Freaking bots. Anyway, as I was saying, kind of the thing is that with kind of one thing to keep in mind about men's mental health, particularly when it comes to, well, like I said, depression, rather big part of it is feelings of stagnation and just futility, which, it's worth noting that can also be the case when it comes to, like I said, insecurities. That one can do what they can to overcome that stuff. Do the best that they can, only for it to be, well, not enough. worse, like I said, like I said when bringing up the kind of impact that DEI policies have had, it's not just feeling as though it's not going to be enough, but in that case, it's outright knowing that it won't be. Now, granted, one thing that's also worth noting is about insecurities in general is that one can't expect other people to overcome them for you. They might be able to help or, give some kind of support, but they can't actually overcome it for you. And I suppose to kind of put it in sort of video game terms, you could think of it as being kind of like you're playing some kind of game where you might have assist characters, but they're only around for so long, or they're kind of flimsy. Well, you might have assist characters that can fight alongside you for taking down some really tough boss, but, well, they don't last nearly long enough. They're maybe a bit too flimsy, or maybe have rather crappy AI. Whatever the case might be. Or in a similar manner, there might be, like, assist characters that, give you buffs or debuff the enemy, but because of how they work, it's nonetheless up to you to actually defeat that enemy. In a similar manner, I have kind of noticed stuff where there seems to be people who, and I kind of bring that up because I've noticed some people that it seems, well, I've noticed some behavior patterns where it seems as though they rely on other people to overcome their insecurities. So, for example, it could be some kind of thing where, wanting to have someone or maybe multiple people that they can truly trust, while at the same time being deeply afraid of being betrayed or abandoned. And unfortunately, there are some people who, the way they very poorly try to address that insecurity is by trying to find trying to find someone that they can very deeply trust, and expecting that person to kind of prove beyond any of their doubts, any of the doubts they personally have, that the person can be trusted. Well, that doesn't work. Because those questions, those doubts, are never going to go away. Not unless the person who has them overcomes them in some way. It's also worth noting just, well, to be blunt, just how unfair that is for the other person. Where basically they're trying to they're trying to prove something about themselves to that other person, to the person with those doubts, and no matter what the person with those doubts, they might trust or believe what the person what the person has proved for now. But in time, those doubts will just come back up again. Seems like it's kind of spinning away from it. There we go. Really wish there was a better way of farming hexalite quartz, but unfortunately there isn't. Yeah, that was the real reason I was breeding a bunch of Noclum with the kind of passive traits that I have. Noclum's got a high enough mining skill that it can mine hexalite quartz. And that said, kind of one other thing to keep in mind about insecurities, well, much like I said, the way I see them is that they're kind of a mix of just normal healthy desires that any person has, and fears that those desire that they maybe fall short of that, or that the desire can't or won't be met. Well, the reality, kind of another thing to keep in mind about insecurities is that everybody has them. If there is anything that's actually different, it's, well, I suppose maybe which insecurities are really bothering them, and how well they're dealing with those insecurities. yeah, this is still many times faster. Like, just as a means of farming hexalite quartz. Man. Good thing I maxed out the good thing I maxed out the research to be able to get more, well, smelt more bars and there we go. Craft more ammo and pal spheres for that matter. Anyway, kind of as I said earlier, kind of one cold reality of the male experience, one that I wager a lot of women, regardless of whether or not they're feminists, really understand is, like I said, it's the fact that when you're a guy, well, it really is up to you to solve your own problems and take care of them, because nobody's really nobody's coming to your rescue. You might be able to find some people who will help, but, well, like I said, might, and the most that they'll actually be able to do is help, in large part because, well, they'll also have stuff they have to. There'll be problems of their own that they have to take care of. But what's more is the fact that when you're a guy, you're expected to, well, be the rescue. Which also means that you're expected to rescue yourself. There you go. That said, what tends to really do a number on a guy's mental health is oh, I thought the game was gonna crash again for a bit there. Glad I was wrong. There we go. So... heck. It's... One thing that's also worth... So like I said, you know, futility and feelings... Or having a sense of futility and stagnation, particularly futility with the kinds of things one's trying to do with their life, you know, some sort of major endeavor. Is... Oh, that energy shotgun finally got made. Slowly getting there. What the heck was I thinking? I'm trying to think. Do you have any of those manuals to increase mining level? Well, that would still be of limited use. Unless it condensed them all away. Which I haven't. Well, then Blazemut needs to use one of those hot springs I've got set up. That's what they're for. Yep. Okay, so I mentioned a trick to taking down Meemog. Notice how I damaged it, and it's not running. Don't need to one-shot him at all. Crap! I'm assuming Pocket Pair knows about the kinds of issues with the game crashing that, like what you just saw there. Most because, you know, the game's, well, at least most of the time. I'm not certain if it does it every time, but at least most of the time it sends a crash report, so they've got to know. Probably going to be addressing with version 1.0. And if not, it's probably going to be a hotfix patch not too long after that. But I digress. There you go. Huh. So anyway, being things that can contribute to that a lot are, well, just kind of being constantly dealt setbacks. Maybe just frequently. Obviously putting a lot of time and effort towards something, only for all that time and effort to have been for nothing. That'll really do... That can really do a number on a person's mental health. But particularly a guy. Because, well, I mean, among other things, that kind of thing can happen where basically it ends up being all for nothing for reasons that are beyond the guy's control. Yet the thing is, even though that can and does happen, you know, a lot of times the expectation is for men to just suck it up and deal with it. And no, it's not so much because of, you know, toxic masculinity, like, you know, stoicism, particularly the kind of stoicism that people tend to cite as being an example of that, which I think is BS. But it's because of the fact that women, believe it or not, women actually do expect men to just, you know, take it. When it comes to, well, a whole lot of things. But in particular, well, there we go. Any sort of, well, any sort of experience that is going to be quite painful. And I don't mean physically. Rather ironic, too, because the women that tend to particularly expect men to just take it, they also tend to be the ones that think rather highly of their own virtue. Especially in comparison to men. Well, they think very highly of their virtue, particularly compassion. Yeah. As for me saying that, you know, I mentioned that I personally think that referring to stoicism as toxic masculinity being BS, yeah, that's because, among other things, life... This can be true for, you know, any woman who basically decides to, who ends up deciding to stay single, or even if she just ends up single for her whole life, whichever. Yeah, life is tough, and you gotta be tougher. Because if you're not, it's not gonna go too well. And in fact, trying not to get banned here, the people who don't manage to be tougher who don't have the kind of stoicism to take what life, don't have like the kind of inner strength and toughness to take what life throws at them, Well, like I said, if they don't have enough of that to take that, then oftentimes what ends up happening is they, like I said, try not to get banned here. Uh, they end up trying to disconnect from the server, if you will. Of course, one thing that can make it rather tough to, that can make it particularly difficult to, well, be tougher, is if there doesn't seem to be any end in sight at all, or even that things will be getting better. Oh yeah, that's right. The energy shotgun would have been made at the weapons workbench. Not nearly enough. They're probably at a high enough. Those Bastard are probably at a high enough level that they're not going to benefit all that much from the sealed realm of Terraria. Figure I'll do a quick run through it while I'm waiting for that stuff to get smelted. That said, kind of the thing about, well, like I was saying, kind of the whole thing of all the crap that life throws at a person and how they, you know, need to be tougher. Well, that's even more so the case with men because, well, chivalry isn't dead yet. It's just mostly dead. But that said, uh, because of that, as much division as there is between men and women currently, even men will tend to care. Well, they'll tend to care more about the kind of problems that, well, women in general, but particularly women that they personally know. And when I say personally know, well, actually, could it just be women that they personally encounter? Like, say if like someone, some guy, some guy's out and about and maybe taking care of some errands of his own. He comes across a woman who's, having trouble, who's very clearly having trouble with something. He's going to be more inclined to help her out than he's generally going to be more inclined to help her out than if there's a guy having a problem. Of course, this, I suppose some people might think that, well, that's toxic masculinity, that kind of thing. No, it's, in the case of a guy kind of looking at some guy having trouble with something and just kind of not helping him. It's ironically might actually be because the guy that decides not to help is because kind of looks at it like, I think he's got it. So it's not so much indifference or apathy, probably might be more trust. Or at least it could be. In some cases, it might actually just be apathy. As I was saying, kind of because of how when you're a guy, no one's, there isn't really going to be anybody coming to your rescue. Well, that also kind of means that being a guy, well, it's pretty sink or swim. Unfortunately, there's a rather common attitude, and I'd say it's not really among men all that much, or at least most men, that, oh, well, if he, how to put this, that if it's a guy, that if a guy sinks instead of swimming, then it's not even really things like, oh, maybe I should help him. Instead, it's just kind of a more general attitude in society these days of, well, sucks to be him. Ooh, Terrorblade 2. Oh shoot, I forgot about that other base with all those eggs. Whoopsie! Speaking of eggs... More cake! There it is. And come to think of it, that, oh boy. Yeah, I left it sitting a little too long. Huh. I thought it would have taken up more of my carrying capacity than that. That's not a complaint, that's a statement. Okay, close. Yet so far. Dagnabbit. I'd have figured hatching eggs would also give a pretty good chunk of experience to the pals I had in my team. I guess not. It would be so tough to create an army of super soldiers. Oh. Close. Legends, Serenity, and Divine Dragon. Along with Philanthropist. That'll probably have to do. Unless I somehow manage to get one that... that more closely matches it. And that more closely matches what I'm looking for. Same with that one. Okay. Oh wait, doesn't have Divine Dragon. Okay. Not exactly ideal, but that'll do. I just gotta condense them. I think the Bastigor that I've got in that box will probably do the trick. Close! So very close! Oh, that's right. You can't swap. You can't shuffle them around in there. That's the main complaint I have about that user interface. And since I'm probably going to end up with some Bastigor that have the traits I'm looking for, might as well make use of them. I'm thinking at least 3 Frostallion. Mm. A swimmer. It doesn't even swim. Let's see. Huh? Where are the others? How come they're not pitching in? Oh, because one of them's eating right now. Okay. Understandable. Don't know why I forgot to have that equipped. Oh yeah, because I was farming a bunch of crap, that's why. Not that. I have a system. Oh, I do have a couple for mining. Wait, that's right. Might want to make a few more than that. Wait. Get back here, you! Ah! Overburdened by a factor of roughly 10. Yeah, it's the Hexalite Quartz. It's the limiting factor. Okay, good. And they're hard at work. Yeah. Those two. Where do you think you're going? Mass production. Have fun, you two.
What?
Ah, dang. That'll do. Diamond body, legend burly body. Ah, man. There we go. Oh. Right. And eat more cake than a baker's convention. Or we have more cake than a baker's convention. Oh yeah, now I remember. Right there. Huh. Thought there's gonna be more for some reason. Growth rate. I need more harvest. Already got that. Okay then. Anyway, as I was saying... Oh, shoot. Forgot about the... berries being taken straight from my inventory. Again. I always forget about that. What are the work proficiencies? Okay. Handiwork is not among them. Got it. And kind of lost my train of thought of the whole thing. Well, all this stuff with men's mental health. I guess I'll have to catch the next train. Might as well. Over there. Oh, it certainly gets much better damage. Oh yeah. Flower. That's... That's not gonna be enough.
What?
Oh yeah, that's right. There it is. Huh. Self-repair system that activates when dealing damage. Certainly worth a try. Oh. Why is it just her working on that? Okay, that's coming along. What the heck else was there? Oh yeah. I've since getting bogged down by ammo by ammo for a weapon that I'm not even carrying, and I don't even have with me. Ah, I kind of remember what my train of thought was. So, like I was saying, there's that garbage of, stoicism being referred to as an example of toxic masculinity. No, that's actually not the case. If anything, it's more the opposite. Uh, Life is, kind of like I said, life is tough, and person has to be tougher. And well, kind of the truth of it is that adult life for everybody is tough, particularly when they're tackling it on their own. But with the kind of expectations that there are on men, what is going on there? Hmm. And there's the Hexiolite. Wrong chest. The reality of it is that no matter how much progress feminism ends up making, men are still going to be expected to to do a whole lot. There really isn't going to be any change in that. Guess I'll tackle a dungeon while I'm waiting for all that to get crafted. And stoicism, toughness, if you will, in very large part, it's being able to withstand what life throws at you. Well, not just withstand it, but to persevere. Like I said, men can't really. Kind of the reality of the male experience is that when you're a guy, nobody's coming to your rescue. Not to mention, kind of one thing that's worth noting, because I've seen a lot of crap about how, oh, men need to be more comfortable talking about their feelings. Okay, part of the reason why men don't really do that is because we tend to recognize that what's, causing us to feel upset or whatever is something that we're facing. In which case, if we manage to resolve what it is that's causing us to feel upset, we're not going to feel quite as upset anymore. Basically, best way to think of it is that it's removing removing a source of stress instead of just seeking to relieve stress. What the heck is going on there? Men generally tend to default to that kind of approach anyway, which it works really well, provided that the thing that's stressing a guy out can actually be resolved, or if it's something that can that will only last for so long, and thus he only needs to endure. Which again, that's also why it is that a sense that futility or stagnation tends to really stress a guy out, or is rather bad for his mental health. And so, men kind of developing that sense of stoicism, well, because we need to. We really don't have a better choice. I mean, one could say, "Oh well, you could just talk about your feelings," and how exactly would that really do much good if the thing that's stressing a guy out is still there? You just end up going right back to square one with that. And yes, that is kind of the male mentality. I mean, you can whine and complain about a problem all you want. Like, say, I mean, you can whine and complain about some kind of chore that you have to do, but it's not gonna. But no matter how much you vent, no matter how much you whine and complain, you still need to do that chore. Especially since, like I said, for men, no one's coming to your rescue. So, at best, at best, you might be able to find someone that'll handle it for you. Which in some Hold still! See, self-demonstrating an article about how men deal with stress. Alright, there's something that's stressing a guy out. What the? As I was saying, though, even in cases where a guy doesn't end up addressing the issue himself, like, say, if he's having car trouble, well, you know, what's the alternative to addressing that issue himself? Maybe finding a friend who can, you know, fix the car, who can fix that issue, or paying a mechanic to do that. And it's also entirely possible that he might need to find some means of, you know, getting around without a car during that time. And, you know, venting about all the kind of frustration from all that, well, it doesn't change the problem. Nor does it actually do anything constructive about it, for that matter. In fact, for that matter, there's a YouTube video that actually does a pretty good job of kind of showing, because, you know, talking about one's problems, venting, well, sure, it might help you feel better, but there's this one, like I say, there's this one YouTube video that does show that, it does kind of show how women are prone to doing that, and, well, at least a lot more prone to doing that than men are. And as well as kind of, I guess you know, how this can cause a bit of friction. And the YouTube video, the YouTube video is titled, "It's Not About the Nail."
What?
Eh, why not? But like I was saying, you know, that kind of stoicism, developing that kind of stoicism, well, it's kind of necessary, because, you know, you have to be able to kind of grit your teeth and, well, endure through the trouble that you're facing, at least while you're in the process of dealing with and resolving the problem. Where the heck are they going? Okay, fine. Nope, nope, don't you dare crash! Or is it locked up? Dagnabbit. Once again, self-demonstrating article about this sort of thing. Because I could vent about that problem all I want, and I could vent and voice my frustration about that problem all I want. It's not going to do anything about the problem. Besides which, at least to a certain degree, a lot of people don't really want, kind of a dirty little secret is that a lot of people don't actually want men to vent about their problems or their feelings because a lot of times, well, what sort of tone do you suppose a guy is going to have if he's talking about something that's causing him a lot of frustration? Yeah, that's why people don't actually. That's why people tend to take issue with men actually doing that. It's often results in a guy saying either saying things or just talking in a way that tends to be interpreted as aggressive, hostile, or confrontational.
What?
Uh, at least he didn't take an arrow to the knee. So, like I said, technically speaking, people don't. A lot of people, both men and women, actually tend to not appreciate men, venting about their problems or talking about it. Like I said, that's because the kind of if a guy does that, a lot of times the sort of tone that he ends up taking. Oh, you've got to be kidding me! Okay, so I guess there's something about this cave that makes the game lock up. Right, so like I was saying, the you know kind of a dirty little secret is that a lot of people, both men and women alike, they don't actually they're really not receptive to men venting about their venting about their problems or frustrations. Kind of that whole thing of, oh, talking about your feeling, well, talking about it will make you feel better. Not really, because it'll result in the other person being it usually results in the other person being pretty defensive, or well, just kind of in general, treating the guy's behavior and like what he's saying and the tone he's taken as him being aggressive, or as being aggressive, hostile, even confrontational. And that's at best. A lot of cases, if a guy were to actually talk about his problems or whatever, it just results in the person saying, maybe the person being rather dismissive, which is especially common if the person he's talking to is a woman. Now the guy will just be like, just kind of say, "Oh, that sucks," but I don't know what I can do to help you there. Huh. Did I get recovery meds from that chest? That's not even getting into, well, the fact that probably not, this is actually does tend to be much more so women than men will end up judging men for just showing pretty much any emotion. Like, say if he shows, say sadness, depression, or I guess rather despair, or just pain. Yeah, a lot of times women end up thinking less of a guy who shows such an emotion, particularly viewing him as, well, weak or pathetic. And this is one thing that's worth noting, that I imagine a lot of women really aren't aware of. They are not fully aware of how they do this, probably because they tend to do so, or they tend to not consciously do this. But they are far more judgmental of men than they seem to be aware. And no, this isn't there's really those women with a really nasty attitude, especially towards men, that you'll see on like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, or whatever. Unfortunately, this is also the case even with good, decent women, where a guy could mention or show some sort of weakness on his part, and those women will just kind of pull away from him end up becoming more distant. And just, and as a guy would be able to tell through the way that she behaves that, yeah, she thinks much less of him now. Hold still, dang it. I like dogs, but I need the XP. At least I think those are dogs. And I actually remember hearing an account of a guy saying, of a guy who was a father and husband, you know, he say this to a woman who's like I think she was a men's mental health advocate, talking about how, oh, men need to be more, need to, feel more comfortable talking about their feelings, and might even been specifically, talk about their feelings with other men. And she talked about how there was a book signing that she had once, and there's a guy there that, like I said, he was a father and husband, and he ends up pointing to his wife and daughters, and he says, hang on, I want to make sure you'd be able to hear me over the game audio. There you go. He ends up he points to his wife and daughters, and he says, you see those women over there? They would rather see me die on my white horse than ever fall from it. And honestly, I can definitely see why it is that a lot of women would be like that. It's because if her white knight were to ever stumble, were to ever fall from his white horse, then who's how is he really gonna be able to protect and provide for her? That basically she ends up feeling, I guess you could say, vulnerable to the dangers that there are out there in the world. Although, note that I said that I can understand it. I did not say that I agree. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff of which that's the case. Where, even though I may understand it, even though I get where the person's coming from, that does not by any means mean that I agree. Hmm. Alright. What the heck did I make the mud chowder for? I think that one helps with pals working at the base. Okay, so those wings are purely decorative and not functional. Understood. Oh, at least the reload's a lot faster with that. $10,000. How much is it for a rare? I wonder for an uncommon one. 11,000. Getting there. Shoot. Yeah, I've played Terraria, but I haven't played Ultra Kill. Oh, maybe I'll try it sometime. Maybe not. Derp. Alright, sell that schematic because I don't need it. Whoop. Man, the defense on this. I know it's collab armor, but man, the defense on it is nuts. Hmm. Actually, I might not have time for that, for raiding that Rain Syndicate oil rig. Oh. Whoops. Hey, what happened to that human pelt trader? He went through some robotization. Yeah, that's it. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot about those two. Huh? Well, that'll have to do. Due west. Huh? Can I help you, sir? But it's a dangerous place, to make sure to stay away from it. Will do. Not. Yep, still a ways out there. Well, so much for that. Good thing it don't drop anything. Yeah, you get. Oh man, they even took that much health off my jet dragon. Holy crap! I'm gonna need a whole different approach for trying to take on that place. Got freaking shredded. I get the feeling I'm probably not going to be successfully raiding that and without an overheat rifle. Which I'm so close to being able to craft the ammo. Close. Probably gonna be better off swapping that one. Same with that. That one. At least level 3 for each one. Oh. maybe level 4. Yeah. Yeah. Condense those two, or 3. Oh yeah, haven't hatched those ones yet. Ah, heck, might as well make it level 4 for the Jet Dragon. How do they manage to keep disappointing me so much? I think I might keep that one, though. By they, I am of course referring to my Frostallion. But keep that one too. Maybe that one. Because it's becoming a bit clear that it's starting to become rather clear that I'm probably not going to end up with one better than that, and even then, not by much. Uh, hello there, Project Amber Rose. Welcome on in. As you can see, I've been trying to build up an army for taking on Xenolord, and results have been mixed. Very mixed. It's worked out great for the Bastigor. Everything else, not so much. Man. There you go. Maybe. How many shots does it have per reload? Just one. Okay. Oh yeah. I wonder, should I use those future technical manuals? Maybe not. I'm probably going to need to partner up with some people for taking on some stuff. Like that oil rig. Yeah, that's what I thought. Boy. The grind never ends. Speaking of which, there's some grinding I need to do in Olympus Company, but I'll do that off camera or off stream. Well, the high quality recovery beds will come in handy at least. We're gonna got time for one more dungeon. Oh. Okay then. Well, there's another one over that way. Ha! Excellent. I've never taken one of these out for a spin before. Oh. Okay, so it's kind of tough to actually land that. And Basker's pretty quick. Not much in the way of jump height, though. Good stamina, too. Alright then. Those masks kind of make them look like bandits or psychos, whichever, from Borderlands. Not bad. It's good work there, Wojtek. That's a carry lotus. I don't need any of those. Gotcha.
What?
Kinda wish you wouldn't mess up my shots like that. It's damage him just by running right into him. Missed. Ding! Yeah, see, don't need any more of those. Or those either. Why'd I get those two from dungeons on Fabric Island? I wonder if that's for. Oh, probably Hartalis. Man, it's practically right next to it. Dig, dig, dig a hole. Might as well hit up the bazaar. Offload a bunch of crap. Bazaar, Dune Shelter, whichever. Oh wait, that. Right. Mushrooms. There. Gotta pack it all away. Nope. Forgot about that. Okay. And then the Gatling gun ammo. Don't even know why the heck I'm getting a whole bunch instead of... Well, even just laser rifle ammo, even though that's really outclassed now. Oh well. But I'm just about out of time. So, time to raid out. Oh. I guess Tenno's streaming Metaphor Refantasio? And Celestium's playing Minecraft. Oh! One with that Pokemon mod. I forget. Cobblemon, that's it! Might as well see how she's doing. But, as always, folks, thank you for watching. Peace be with you.